Welcome to Difficult Conversation Africa broadcast. I present to you the host, Yinka Olaito.
All right, we cannot talk about development without talking about internet governance. And internet governance in Africa, if we're going to do it well, it must be democratic, it must be multilingual, and it must have a local solution. To ensure Africa thrives in digital age, our governance model must center on the voices of women, voices of rural community, and not just technocrats. These are some of the views of experts that have been expressed when it comes to internet governance in Africa. And on this note, I want to say welcome to Difficult Conversation Africa podcast, where we raise issues many are afraid to raise, where we have step up conversation that are important for development in Nigeria and Africa at large. And before I introduce my guests, let me give you the background of what we're trying to do today. Internet governance in South Africa is complex and evolving landscape shaped by continent's unique socio-economic, political, and technological challenges. It involves a multi-stakeholder approach, engaging government, civil society, private sector, academia, technical communities, and addressing such like access, affordability, cybersecurity, digital right. And on that, especially the digital right, and that's why my guest today is very, very, very important to the conversation. My guest today is the executive director of PIN, which is Paradigm Initiative, and an African social enterprise that have been involved in digital rights of underserved and the young people across Africa. They have like seven the organization is across Africa and they've been doing a lot. And beside that, he has like over 20 years in the area. I have known him for almost 20 years doing the same thing consistently. And he has been part of UN and multilateral organization experts that talk around internet and all of that. So welcome to this morning, Gbenga Sesan.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so we go to the question. The issue of internet governance in Africa is something that has become something we cannot overlook. And while there are efforts around in every space, we've seen that we still have a long way to go, and that's why we need an expert to shed more light on this. The first question: internet governance. What does it mean in a layman's language?
Yeah, internet governance means the governance of the internet, deciding, how the internet is taken care of. It's
Okay.
the same way with governance in nations, governance in homes, governance of your own life. It's the same way with governance of the internet. And the reason why this is important is because everybody who uses the internet doesn't have to know exactly how everything works, right? But everything works because there is a certain set of rules. In governance, there are rules.
Yeah, sure.
In governance,
There are
protocols.
policies. Yeah.
In governance, there are policies. It's the same
Yeah.
thing with the internet. You have policies that make sure that when you type www.paradigmhq.org, that it translates that into a number, and that number represents a particular location, just like a house.
Okay.
And that it then goes to that house, fetches the information inside the house, and presents it to you on the web. And I know we mix up the internet and the World Wide Web a lot because
That's true.
what we
Because
are-
I think you should help
Yes.
us to
what
understand.
we are visiting when you visit the website is the web. The internet is the entire infrastructure. The internet includes the web, which is a small part of it. The internet includes email as an application.
Oh.
But now, because many people send email on the web, we now think, everything is on the web, is on the internet. We have
Wow.
other areas of the internet that are not web-based. So you
Really?
can connect the internet. We used to talk about Gopher and Telnet and all that. But the good news is that we don't all have to know all of this. But you basically need to know that the aspect of the internet that you're using, because the real internet is international network of networks.
Wow.
The computers and mobile phones, cameras and devices that are connected to each other are what make up the internet. So the internet is really the infrastructure. What you build on the internet is then the application. So that application could be the web, which is the World Wide Web that we see when we visit www.paradigmhq.org or any other website, or the email application that you use, or when you, at times, you transfer files on the internet without using the web. You talk about telnet. And that is why the internet is in itself a place that needs governance. Otherwise, if everybody does anything anyhow, like they say in Nigeria, if you do anyhow, you see anyhow. So on the internet, we can't afford to do anyhow. You have to make sure that when you type the address, you can't, for example, type, oh, I'm feeling lazy today, let me type pin.org. No, you can't. It has to be paradigmhq.org. The name is specific. If you are going to your house and your address is number 5, Afisman Drive, you can't say, today I want to go to number 5, Afis.
You will
get lost. If you put that in
true.
Google Maps, you'll get lost. So the same way, there's governance. There are people who take care of the technical details of the internet, like the name. So the name is taking care of organizations like ICANN, the International Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. You have those who are taking care of the protocols and the engineering of the internet, the Internet Engineering Task Force. You have people who take care of domain names, who sell your domain names to you. Different domain names. Nobody has given me money, so I won't mention any domain name.
I know.
Salesperson. And there are people who store your information. So if you are visiting a website and you fetch information on that website, there is content that you are getting.
That's so.
And I'm sure people are used to content. You do a selfie, you do that. That is the content. For someone to have access to that content, it has to be stored somewhere. It is stored on your phone. When you take the picture, the same way the content of a website is stored on a server. Now that server has a name, just like a house. So that when you type www.paradigmhq.org and it translates into numbers like maybe 1.111.3.5.6, that is called an IP or Internet Protocol address. That address is now the address that it is looking for. When you connect, so on your phone or your computer then talks to the next server it can find. And it says to that server, I'm looking for 131.1.3.5. And that server says, I'm not that address. But somebody asked me that same question yesterday and they went in this direction. All of this happens in microseconds. And then that server connects to another server, connects to another server until you connect to the final destination server. And then when the server says, oh, this is me, it fetches the information and you see it. And because that happens so quickly, we really don't know. But people take care of technical layer. There's the physical layer, cables that connect to the internet, the Wi-Fi infrastructure. There's the legal layer. If you do something wrong on the internet, if you use somebody else's music without getting the rights, permission, you'll be flagged. You'll get a flag. So there's a human rights layer to make sure that things are properly done, on the internet. So these are the various layers of governance. Just the same way you have the executive, judiciary, and legislature in the governance of nations, you also have at least 7 different kinds of components when it comes to internet governance. So it's basically overseeing the day-to-day running of how the international network of networks can work for everyone.
I'm happy for these holistic views because along the line I got lost, but I think that I now get a proper understanding of what you're saying. When you say that it's like a governance at home, you don't have to go out to know everything. So in my mind I was saying, so if I don't have to know everything, but when I now look at the governance at home, a child does not need to know everything, how their father run the money, how the money comes to the table. Sometimes a child does not know what the parents go through, but they have to put the
that is exactly what it's like. That mommy goes to the office and comes back, but you don't know exactly what she does.
Exactly.
At the end of the month, daddy, mommy put money on the table. You don't know, but you have school fees, it is paid.
But there are things that you need to know as a child.
But there are things must come. You need to clear your table when you finish
eating. Because that's the confusion that most of us who are not in the internet space always have. When you see it's governance and it's like governance, but now today I have a better understanding of it because now that because they will say you don't have to know everything. If I don't have to know everything, then I can be judged by it. But like you said, like governance, like I just make that analogy, governance in the home.
Yes.
You have a father, a mother, you are growing up. You may not have to know how your sister even came out. But you have a sister. So but at least you have to know the basic thing that pertains to you and
Absolutely.
how you are
Absolutely.
contributing to that family.
Absolutely.
And I think that this is really, really a part that many do not know that you just shed light on. Let's go to question 2. Accessibility is one of the major discussion on internet governance. Would you like to speak to this in terms of high cost? Because internet governance in Africa, the cost is still something, and we are seeing that we are going to make it has to be accessible. Why the high cost?
Okay. So, I mean, there are two sides to accessibility, and we can come back to the second side. So, there's accessibility of making sure that everyone, regardless of their capacity, regardless of their capability, regardless of any restrictions they have or impairment they have, can use the internet. There's also accessibility in terms of cost. So, there are many factors. I mean, there is,
Please break it down for us.
Okay, so there is a cost factor, right, which is about money, and we will focus on that.
Okay.
But apart from that, there's also the technical limitation. There are people who do not have access because something is too technical. So I'll give you a good example. Someone says, so there's Bitcoin. And I'm like, okay, what is Bitcoin? And then the person says, don't worry, just give me 5,000 naira. And I will teach you what it is.
Okay.
And you give him 5,000 and they then tell you, okay, give me $10,000 and I will invest it for you and give you 11,000. You say, explain it to me, and they don't explain. That is, it's technical, you don't understand it, so you don't have access to it. There's also a bit of, if you're living with a disability, for example, you if you have a hearing impairment and you are watching a video, there must be subtitles and captions and everything that allows you to understand that. That is also accessibility.
Otherwise,
in terms of
there's limitation.
Otherwise, there's limitation. If you are colorblind, for example, and you see, and they say this is green, and for you it is bluish, it has to be described, not only in terms of colors, and that is why there's a whole organization called Web3 Consortium, World Wide Web, W3 Consortium, that, not Web3, sorry, Web3 is another thing entirely. WWW is called W3 Consortium, and they take care of things like accessibility to simplify. If you see a website that is complex, it is very likely that they haven't taken care of making sure that if everything is moving, spinning, everything is in different colors, everything is flashy, then it is not typically accessible. You have to be able to describe an image so that someone who can't see the image can be described it to and hear it. So there are all those accessibility issues. But like you said, let's focus on why it is expensive in Africa. There are many reasons why it's expensive. First of all, don't forget that the internet is a connection of connections. The original, and yes, we say the internet is global, but the original site was within the United States, and at some point, CERN in Europe, which is in Switzerland, and there were 13 sites where there were servers. Now, it means that these 13 sites have first comer advantage. It means they have cables, they've been connecting, they've been talking to each other. And when it went global, so this was a project of the US Defense Department, ARPANET, and also the CERN Research Center in Europe. And at some point, the defense guys realized, oh, this is not just defense, let's use it for the academics. The guys in Europe were using for academic research. At some point, they were like, oh, this is good, let's use it for business. And then there was a turn of the millennium in year 2000 when everybody were like, oh, the year 2000 is coming. This is, Y2K, everything must go global. And then the internet became popular. But for you to connect to content and to have access, you have to take many layers of connectivity. So there's your phone or your device or your laptop that uses a wireless network or a cable to connect to something. Now, that wireless network is because there is a cable that comes from a device, or let's call it a transmitter, that transmits and receives internet signals. Either there is a fiber optic cable that lands by the sea, and then that optic cable is connected to a physical cable that runs all the way to another point, and then someone puts a radio, transmitter that then transmits that signal to your Wi-Fi router, and that Wi-Fi router, that small device in your house that is connected, emits Wi-Fi signals. And that Wi-Fi signal is what you now connect to. Now, because of these many levels, you have to pay for everything. You have to pay for the cable to connect to the main internet connection. You have to pay for the radio. You have to pay for the power supply. Now, that is why all of that is calculated, and it is now If they have 1,000,001 customers, they can reduce the price. But we only have about 35 to 40% of people in Nigeria, mostly in cities, who are connected.
And therefore,
so because of that, the cost is high. If you have more people, they can serve more people and reduce the cost.
Is it possible
or
to
can be competition.
develop an homegrown solution?
Oh, absolutely. Many homegrown solutions right now. Don't forget, the internet is global, which means that you will at some point connect outside.
How?
So you can't just say, okay, I've created this device that connects me to the internet, and I don't connect to anything.
Okay.
Telecommunications companies connect you to their mobile network. And because they've also taken the liberty of internet connectivity to connect to a physical undersea cable, then they are literally piping you to the internet through your mobile network.
Okay.
But one of the reasons why it is expensive is because, number one, the cost of doing business in Africa is high.
It's high. So where do we lay that blame?
Oh, no, it's government. Obviously, it's government. It's government. It's government. Everybody has their blame. But first of all, the cost of doing business, the government has to answer questions. Because the economy is driven by 3 different categories of people: government, businesses, and other actors. Businesses pay tax to government.
Exactly.
Other actors, including us in civil society, pay tax
to the government
on employees and on other things we do. Yes, the organization doesn't pay tax on its income because the income is not for profit, but we pay taxes, we pay VAT, we pay, on every salary there is a tax, and that all goes to government because we have agreed that, okay, the government is the custodian of our tax resources to use that to create a policy environment that is improving and that is better. So government is responsible for that. The cost of living is high because the cost of business is high. And the cost of business is high because the cost of living is high. So it's chicken and egg. And because of that, it means that if I'm going to lay cable, don't forget, if I'm going to lay a fiber cable from Afisman Drive in Ikeja to
Yaba,
not even just to Yaba, if I want to lay cable all the way to the landing port, which is Marina, I have to dig the road. I have to get permission from the government.
For the government to dig the
and
road.
I'll pay right-of-way charges. Thankfully, right-of-way charges have been reduced by many state governments in Nigeria, including Lagos, Ekiti, Kaduna, and others. Some of them have made it 0. Some of them have made it 1 naira so that it can be legal. I mean, because if you've not paid for it, there's no contract.
Exactly.
And some of them have still maintained a lot of money. It used to be some people would charge 3,000 naira per kilometer.
Wow.
And you money how many kilometers? So if you have
here to Marina,
if you have 80 kilometers, you are charging 240,000 already. And if you do that for 80 kilometers in this direction, don't forget, there's that fiber you're laying, there's the power supply. Now, power is getting more stable in Nigeria. It means that power will still be expensive for a while. It is the reason why people are learning. Like the minister said, he said people were too used to leaving their fridge and AC on because we were not paying
for it,
per second, per minute for power. So these are the factors that come together: power supply, cost of doing business, and also the cost of doing business in terms of service provision. You have to put someone in charge of making sure something doesn't go wrong. So you're hiring more people. You have to put a help desk where people can answer questions in case the internet is not going well. Somebody forgets to plug in their router and the internet is not connecting and they are calling you. My internet is not connecting. Someone has to go through the process to explain, is it connected? Exactly. And you say, oh, it's not connected. Oh, sorry. They want to tell you, you dumb person, get off the phone. But they can't say it because they have to go for training to learn how to be nice. That training costs money. Customer service. All of these costs come together. But don't forget, if there are a lot of people doing it, then there's competition.
Okay.
We don't have many people doing it.
Okay.
A lot of licenses in Nigeria for internet service provision, but not many of them are active because many of them start the business and then there's no funding to continue. Many of them, do themselves in by not providing good service and they die, but many of them try hard and they can't really, move on because don't forget.
Let's go to another aspect.
Just one final thing. Yeah? Financing is a problem for businesses in Nigeria. And I think it's important for us to mention that because banks would rather give money to someone they already know
Then
which
somebody,
makes sense because you have to de-risk
exactly,
money.
trust.
But also, we're now beginning to get a culture of loans. There was no culture of loans. Banks were even round tripping at some point. They will convert money into Forex, get the Forex back in Naira, and they've made
they make their
billions
money,
and trillions in profit. But now that we're beginning to see, collateralization of assets, someone has 2 cameras. These 2 cameras are expensive. You're able to take loans against these cameras. If these 2 cameras, I'm assuming they will cost at least 8 million.
More than that.
More than, see, I'm wrong. 15 million. Against 15 million naira, or let's even say it's 10 million.
10 million.
Against 10 million, you should be able to get a loan of at least 1 million. Or at least a loan minimum.
At least.
So that if you collateralize this and say, okay, you know what? I have this device. It's 5 million naira. I need to do a business. I need a loan of 1 million. If I default, you can take this. And so it means I can get up to 80%, maybe 4 million, 3.5, 4 million naira against the 5 million. But right now, if you take a camera to a bank and say,
you're just joking,
I want to collateralize this, and they will say it is not landed assets. They prefer houses. And of course, you don't blame them because there's risk. There's
they
flight
need their money
risk.
Back.
Exactly.
Because of our time, let's look at internet shutdown. It's common around Africa, especially. The question is, that is infringing on fundamental human right of people. So, and that is common in Africa. So, as a relevant CSO, what do you think people should do, and what are you doing about it? So, I know that you do a lot, yes, but please share with us.
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the important things is to talk about it, which is what we're doing, which is very important, which is why when the question is asked, I'm happy to talk about it. Even if someone says, oh, you are not doing anything, I'm happy to explain what we're doing. Now, it is important to document.
Yeah.
And by documenting, I mean you have to keep record. You have to keep records of when there is a shutdown. A shutdown, in simple terms, is when you are restricted from being able to connect to the internet by a deliberate act of government.
Yeah.
Now, a shutdown is an example of many disruptions that can happen. There can be a cable cut, that's a disruption. There can be downtime, that's a disruption. Okay. But there can be a deliberate attempt of shutting down the internet. Now, that itself is a shutdown. Okay. What do? One, we keep records. We make sure we document. Every year, Paradigm Initiative and many others make sure that we keep records in civil society so that if we need to take action, and I will explain the action, we can go to the records. We document in our Londa report, LONDA.
Okay,
Londa.Africa. We just, published one, in April, on April 30, with 27 countries, including Nigeria, featured. And we also started a new rating system. We call it the Score Index to score those 27 countries, country by country. South Africa number 1, Ghana number 2, Ethiopia almost at the very end, along with, I think, Sudan. And then you have number 22, Tanzania and Somalia. Okay. Nigeria is somewhere around between number 10 to 15, which basically means that countries that shut down the internet get a score of 0 or 1 over 5. So shutdowns matter. So you keep records. The second thing apart from keeping records, is you also document how it affects people. So there is economic cost of shutdowns. You keep records of that. When we were in Tanzania just, at the end of last month, I explained to the people, Twitter has been shut down. It is costing your country about $9 million. And then newspapers speak data and started talking about it. And that is important because people need to know there's an economic cost to shutdowns. There is the human cost. And we have examples of when there's a shutdown in the country. In Gambia, for example, there was a shutdown and there was a woman who needed to get to the hospital. She was about to deliver and she couldn't because there was a shutdown.
Wow.
People could die in a shutdown. We had in Nigeria here, the Northeast, when there was a shutdown, not just of the internet, but of all telecom infrastructure. In 3 states, people were traveling. Instead of making calls, they will have to travel physically. And some of them were getting attacked by Boko Haram.
Okay.
So you were saying you shut down
networks.
Those
are impacts also.
Those are impacts. You claim that you shut down the network so that Boko Haram will not use the signal.
But
Boko Haram was still using signal from where? maybe from neighboring countries. Maybe they have expensive phones that don't need your kind of network and things like that. So shutdowns have impact because governments claim, oh, we shut down to protect you. But when you're shutting down to protect us and we are dying, are you protecting us? Of course you're not. So after keeping records, you have to also take action.
Yeah.
Of course, you have to protect yourself, which is why we created Ayeta. Ayeta, of course, is a Yoruba word that means
You can
bulletproof.
okay.
Ayeta.africa, Ayeta, Ayeta.africa. So we document with Londa, we protect ourselves with Ayeta, and Ayeta.africa gives you information about how to stay online even when there's a shutdown. Even when there is a restriction, you can use virtual private networks, you can use other avenues to stay online and to be able to share information. And we provide that information. We have a project called, Dream. It's the Digital Rights and Elections in Africa Monitor, where we go to a country like Ghana, like Tanzania, like Eswatini that have elections, and we say to them, you have elections. Your government may want to think of shutting down the internet, and we did the same thing in Nigeria. In case they do, these are tools and resources you can use to protect yourself, to stay online so you can share information. After you document with Londa and you protect yourself with Ayeta, then you need to take action. To take action, we have a platform called Reporti, RIPOTI. It's a Swahili word. Londa is a Zulu word that means, to protect. Reporti is a Swahili word that means to report. Of course, report. Reporti.africa. You go there, you report, oh, there has been a shutdown in my country. We've told you how to do that, how to stay online. You report the shutdown, and then we can go to court, which is where we want to make sure that we get the attention of the government. We've done that in Kenya recently, where the government shut down the internet last year, and ourselves, Prime Minister, in partnership with the Bloggers Association of Kenya, International Communication of Jurists in Kenya, and others, went to court and said to the government, explain why you should shut this down. And the court has said no more shutdowns until we determine this case. Senegal, a partner of ours, also went to court to determine if the shutdown in Senegal was legal or not. And the ECOWAS court has said, no, it is wrong. We went to court for the Twitter shutdown in Nigeria. The courts were slow. We went to the ECOWAS court. Eventually, the ECOWAS court gave a ruling through a lot of us, Media Rights Agenda, Paradigm Initiative, Enough is Enough Nigeria, SERAP, as a combined case, because we all took different cases to court, but we agreed to combine the cases, to make it one consolidated case, and we got judgment from the ECOWAS courts that shutdown is wrong. So the 3 things to do with shutdowns: document, don't forget to go to London.Africa, protect yourself, go to Eta.Africa, and report so that we can take action together. Reporti.Africa.
I must commend the organization for the leadership that you're taking, and this is well commendable. If not for time, I will have asked us to delve into after the court what happened, because we know that obeying court orders in Africa and all of that is a big issue. But let's just go to the next question, which is about democratization of Internet Governance Forum in almost Africa. We have the Africa Internet Governance Forum, West Africa Internet Governance Forum, East Africa Governance Forum, and all of them. Why are we still talking about all these? Why is effectiveness not at the speed at which we're looking at?
Well, the good news is that these initiatives you mentioned are called National and Regional Initiatives, NRIs. They are voluntary, which is good, which means that they are not government-led. Which means that they are multi-stakeholder: government, private sector, civil society, and academia, technical community, and all of the actors. And because they are self-run initiatives,
not a government-run thing.
They are able, in some countries, it is run more by government, which is a problem that we're trying to address. But the good news is that because it is run by everyone, we're able to have conversations. So we have, for example, the Nigeria IGF coming up, I think in September, where there will be conversations and we can tell ourselves the truth. If I meet someone there from government, I can easily say to them, guys, you're messing up in this area. Oh, but well done in this other area. We can also tell ourselves as civil society, guys, we should do better in this area. We messed up. But in this area, well done. Even though there's no money, we're still working. And we can say the same to the academic, technical communities, and to everybody. And we can choose to take action together. For example, every country that has a Universal Services Provision Fund or Universal Services Fund or Universal Access Fund, they should be using that fund to provide more access for the internet. In cases where they are not, we've documented this in Londa every year. There are countries where the money is being used. There are countries where the money is being siphoned. by political actors and being stolen. And
That's
we've
it.
called many of them out to say, listen, stop stealing this money. Use it for the right thing. So this is the beauty of the national and regional initiatives. There are young people across various countries. Let me give a very interesting example. There's a young Gambian woman who runs the Gambia IGF, co-runs the West Africa IGF,
Really?
co-runs and supports the Africa IGF, and is also very actively involved with the global IGF. I
How
did the
does she
same
do
thing as
that?
a young person.
Okay.
Well, she does this because, incidentally, she started working recently with the government, but that is not even the reason she's doing that. It's because she's very active. I mean, Miriam is a very active person. She has been involved, and she's the example of what every stakeholder should be. Either you're in government, civil society, private sector, you should make sure that the Internet Governance Forum works for your country, works for your sub-region, which is West Africa, East Africa, Southern Africa, Middle East and North Africa, or North Africa, and Central Africa, or Francophone Africa, where Francophone Africa includes more than Central Africa, and then the Africa IGF, which is the regional IGF, so that we can have conversations and action at the national level, then go to the sub-regional level, then go to the national, regional level, and then we can take that conversation to the global level. The global IGF holds next week in Norway.
Okay.
Because the Africa IGF has held already, and there has been conversations about certain things, that conversation can then go to the global IGF.
Yeah, the issue of digital rights
Yes.
is something that we are very quite concerned about, because our organization, one of our organizations, set up a digital right of person with disability, but we are not into that. Digital right inclusion efforts so far have tried to improve digital inclusion with focus on addressing urban and rural disparity, gender gap, and all of them. The AU vision for digital simple market aim to enhance all of these. Why are we still where we are?
Many reasons. We all have a part to play. As a continent, we are very unserious, and I say this all the time. That if I have to apply for a visa to go to Tanzania, and a Tanzanian has to apply for a visa to come to Nigeria, then we're not serious about a single market. I know there are concerns. I know there are people who say, oh, if you give everybody a visa, people in poorer countries will come to richer countries. But are we really a continent that has leaders who are thinking towards AU 2063 action plan? If we are, then we should be able to do the right work in every country, give various countries a target. Say by 2040, each year you must show progress, and by 2040, you must have attained a certain level of GDP growth. And if you achieve this level, we open a common market so that people are not running from one place to one place. It's the same thing within the country. People were deported from Lagos to another state. What is the meaning of that? It is because there is disparity in income. So we need to do better. If we want a single market, let's have a single market. And what is more annoying is that I, as a Nigerian, will not be able to get into a certain African country, and a European does not need a visa and comes in. So if you are truly, so it means you are basically saying, you know what, we want more Europeans, which is understandable because you think they won't run away, which is fine. But we need to get more serious. My take on this is that we are not a serious people just yet when it comes to having a common market. When we are serious about having a common market, we know the right thing to do. We will challenge our leadership, we will challenge our people. And it is not easy. I'm not saying it's
going to
ABC. It's not going to be easy. There is no good thing that is sustainable and easy at the same time. It's not possible. If it is sustainable, it is not easy. If it is easy, it is not sustainable.
So let's talk about data protection, digital rights, cybersecurity issues, and all of that.
Many things.
Digital privacy. We're still far from where we used to be. Where do we go from here?
We should demand better policies, and we should work with the relevant institutions to make the policies better. Don't forget, something becomes law means it has gone through a process. A bill has been submitted, a bill has been passed by the National Assembly, a bill has been signed by the executive, which is led by the president. When that bill is written, you can give feedback. You can say, oh, this is a bad bill, improve it. We always share a template when it comes to digital bills. We say this is a template that PIN uses. Please feel free to use it. And we have a lot of organizations who use that and who also even work with us to submit memos. Then when the National Assembly is discussing, there is a public hearing. Typically, after, it is not always, but typically when there's a second reading, then there's likelihood that there's a public hearing. A public hearing means you have a chance to go to the National Assembly physically, or you can send a memo if you are not able to go physically. I mean, we did sue the National Assembly because at some point they did not allow people to come in physically for a public hearing, and we thought that was, that was nonsense. So we had to take action on that. But you can submit a memo, and when you submit a memo, if the bill still goes through to the third reading, which is literally passage, then it has to go for concurrence in the other house, either the House or the Senate. Before it goes for concurrence, you have a chance to campaign and say, no, this is a bad bill. It should not pass. We've had this before in Nigeria with the hate speech bill that was nonsense. With the anti-social media bill, and people prevailed. There are some bills that will go through. You won't have a perfect law, but you can also ask for amendment. You can go to court. You can, as they say, when you lose an election, they say go to court. When there's a policy you don't like, you can go to court. We still have courts. I mean, we recently heard that a judge has said that the government cannot have, order an arrest of Natasha, even though they wanted it. Because this is fair hearing. So there are still, within the system, there are judges who will do the right thing. There are activist judges, the judges who will just do the right thing. And of course, there are corrupt judges, unfortunately.
So, lastly, just despite the progress in internet freedom, online violence and aggression still dominates conversation. What can be done? What should we do? What should be done?
Speak up. I keep saying speak up, and I think it's important. So, I mean, there's online gender-based violence. There's technology-facilitated gender-based violence. This have become increasingly popular because people are now using online tools to do the things they were doing offline, right? We need to take action on that. If you see, and I've said this is one of the things about bullies. Bullies are cowards. If you remember in primary school, that boy that was always pushing your stomach, and say, the day you stand and say, stop it, the first thing is they are scared. Like, where did this guy grow his spine from? And if everybody then joins their voice and says, stop it, leave her alone, or leave him alone, you'll be shocked. They'll run away.
They run away,
This is why online, that is how to deal with cowards. When someone says, oh, look at her, and they want to either slut shame her or say, go and marry, or say something to attack someone, respond to them and say, leave her alone. You can say, oh, if I respond, they will attack me. Don't forget, if 1 million people respond, that person will know that something they've done is wrong. So we need to protect ourselves online. A society is as strong as how it protects its weakest.
That's true. One that I would love to speak for you to speak to as we round up is I've seen where they now use AI to remove the top of ladies. What can the society do? What can the law say?
The law already says it's illegal. We have a cybercrime law that says it's illegal. Report. We have many cases that have been reported unreported, and we have action that has been taken on many of those cases, and some of them are ongoing investigation. And the good news is that the police in Nigeria has a cybercrime unit that actually deals with that. And yes, you can say, oh, maybe the police is not as equipped in Nigeria, and many African countries don't have as that. But this is why partly why we're also working as part of initiative with the police. We've been training the police for almost 4 years now. And in fact, next week, we're going to go into a meeting where we're discussing the curriculum that the police will be using. We've trained some of their trainers in police colleges. We're going to go around the colleges across Nigeria to train. And we're including digital rights and how to understand and deal with these issues. But when you see that kind of action, please report. And I know there are cases where you don't want to report because you are scared. Oh, if I report, people will know that they've already they've already created a bad image of me. Don't forget, if you don't report, they will continue. So it is better that, yes, you report and it can be stopped. The good news is that Ekiti and Lagos, for example, have sexual offenders registered.
Yeah, sure.
And when you enter that register, you are done for life. It may not be for life. It may be
Well,
for
at
a
least
period
your
of time,
image is
but
almost
you will be posted online and offline as a sexual offender. Any man who has been violent or has taken advantage of a woman in any of those states and has been reported will tell you right now that, oh boy, don't try it. And you know, this depravity of trying to use AI to unclothe people is really stupid, because while you are doing that, others are using the same tool to make their lives
to make
better.
money.
And in 2 years, in 5 years, they would have changed their lives, and you will now be saying Enugbe. So choose
Meanwhile,
one.
you have the same access.
You have the same access. So choose between sack pardon, sack me, and I am now a big man. I'm a big woman because I have learned, I have worked, and I'm earning. You can use these tools for the right thing.
Yeah, thank you, Gbenga Sesan, for this insightful session, and no, thank you for your time, because I know that there's pressure on your time. We appreciate all that you do. Thank you for you and your team and all you do across Africa. We are glad that you are doing what you are doing, and please keep doing it. I hope that in the next 20, 30 years, we will still continue to hear about PIN and your efforts going forward. Thank you for always being there. For our listener, thank you for all the feedback that you give to us. We appreciate them. And please keep giving us that information that we need to improve. And if there's any conversation you want us to hold, please send out to us through the DM. All the corrections you want us to make, we are making adjustment every day. We are still growing. We are still like a startup that is growing, but we know that we are getting. But in case you want privacy, you can send email to info@difficultconversationafrica.org. Thank you, and see you next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode. For inquiry, please send an email to info@difficultconversationafrica.org. Telephone 0809 3160591. Please follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Difficult Conversation Africa. See you soon.